Team, I'd like to introduce you all to our new landscaping manager, Derek Sinclair.
Hi, Derek. Welcome to the team.
My pleasure to be here. I expect great things from all of us.
Derek here is my son-in-law, so I'm sure you'll all enjoy his presence here.
We haven't had much luck in the past with landscaping managers, so it couldn't get much worse. Derek's eccentric, but he's related to Mr. King, so I trust his judgment. I believe he could be a good asset for the department. We'll see how it plays out.
So you want what done? Sprinklers? Can you spell that, please? S-P-R-I... You know what? Let me refer to you to one of my associates. I don't have that much experience in landscaping, but I consider myself a pretty good manager. Plus I've done towing, which is pretty much the same thing. I mean, how hard could it be, right? Managing people can't be that hard.
Janice Bowman's office. Yes, sir. We'll have someone there right away. Yes, I understand. Janice Bowman's office. I do realize it's been 2 weeks. We'll have someone there by tomorrow. Thank you. Derek.
Yes, Janice?
I have a lot of customers complaining about your work lately. I know you're just starting out, but if you need any help, you should tell me now.
Actually, here's some of the invoices that I was going to do today, and I'd really appreciate if you would go ahead and help me out there.
It's just not fair for the customers. All they want is updates on when they can expect their landscaping job to be completed. And Derek doesn't even bother to call them back. It's all about communication. I find myself promising customers that I will personally follow up with them after speaking with Derek. I'm tired of getting yelled at for circumstances not under my control. Come in.
Hey, Janice. Here's the rest of the invoices that I was supposed to fill out. You're a real team player. Thanks for all the help.
That's it. Hi Diane, how are you?
How are you? Have a seat.
Thank you.
So what's the problem?
Diane, I feel like I'm being used. It's become clear to me that I'm doing all of Derek's work on top of my own, and I just can't do it anymore. I spend all my time in this office, all my weekends here to catch up on his work.
I see what you mean, Janice. How long has it been going on?
Basically since he was hired. I've been spending too much time fixing his mistakes, and it's taking time away from my own job.
I see what you mean. I'll see what I can do.
Thank you. Hi Derek.
Yes.
I need you to go over each job slip with staff and ensure that all the slips are correct and complete. I found so many missing parts from the slips, and I don't trust that customers are getting billed accordingly. I can't spend time just chasing workers around to make sure that the job slips are correct. I suspect we're losing a lot of money because of this.
Is it really such a big deal? I mean, $1 here and there is not going to affect the company. The parts that are used in these jobs, they're not expensive. We can replace them pretty easily.
I suspect it's a lot more than just a few dollars here and there. Even so, if I can't keep track of how many parts we have in inventory, then I can't record them. And it's just too costly to run out of parts.
Alright, Janice, I'll make a stronger effort to review the slips and keep the inventory on track. If it takes me reviewing each and every one at the end of the day, I'll do it.
We've had some problems with Derek so far, but I think we've got pretty far with our talk. He seemed pretty sincere, and I think we'd be able to work together from now on.
I don't get why Bowman's so uptight. It's just a couple dollars here and there. What's the big deal?
Campbell, what are you doing in Derek's office?
Oh, I'm inputting the invoices into the system.
Isn't that Derek's job?
Oh, Derek told me to do it before he left.
Well, if you need any help, let me know.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
I've never seen a landscaping department run so poorly. All he did was give his work to Campbell, who obviously doesn't know what he's doing. All the invoices are still coming out wrong. We're losing lots of money because of this. And you know what? I've even found out that he's been allowing his employee Jamie to do extra work for customers without charging them on the invoices. In fact, I even suspect that Shaw might be charging customers and keeping the money to himself. I think we're going to need outside help, so I'm calling an old consulting friend of mine.
Hello, this is Chantal from Westgate Consulting. I understand this is serious indeed. Fortunately, I have just a guy to keep your company from going under. Makoto,
Yes?
I need you to take this case.
Alright.
No.
So I've been reviewing the details of Garden Depot's problem. The main source of Garden Depot's employment during summer is students, so with an incompetent manager to arrange training, the whole department's extremely weak and they can't do their amount of tasks.
Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, it's no problem, when the going gets tough, better call Chantal. So, looking at what you've done so far, I'm really impressed with the intrinsic motivation that you have, with the sense of mission to save the company. In fact, I think we can work together definitely to get things act together.
Thank you, I appreciate your kind words.
And honestly, I think because you're such an established and knowledgeable colleague, you might actually have some form of influence on Sinclair. You could use rational persuasion to convince them of the consequences of not working. You could consult with him to increase his involvement. And in fact, you could even use extrinsic rewards by, trading favors with him maybe.
I guess I could try, but I've been trying to motivate him for a while, and just none of the work has been getting done.
So, the ineffective operations of the Garden Depot reveal the power and influence malfunctions of the firm's management. One of the key issues, after all, is that Derek Sinclair hasn't adopted a legitimate base for power, which would usually result with employees complying with what is asked of them. As a result, they're not really committed to actually completing the work, as they would have been if he achieved expert or referent power over them. And Derek should incorporate tactics to influence subordinates, rather than pushing them to do the work. So it seems not much has changed since you last called me, but that's not really surprising to me. The problem with Sinclair is long-term, especially due to the fact that he lacks motivation.
I'm not really sure motivation is the problem. He just seems not to care about the business.
Well, that's the thing, the organizational commitment is actually part of motivation. So, most likely due to his lack of internal motivation, there's nothing really compelling him to provide more than the absolute minimum he needs to get paid. So, in order to receive these extrinsic rewards, he's only doing the minimum that the company wants him to do. There are three types of organizational commitment: continuance, normative, and effective. Sinclair is currently a continuance commitment, as he's only staying for income security or comparable reasons. It'd be better for him to be a normative commitment, meaning he stays with the organization because it's the right thing to do or he has a sense of obligation to stay. But ideally, Sinclair would have effective commitment, meaning he would gain some kind of emotional attachment to the organization, motivating him to stay.
Sorry, I'm late.
Oh, no problem. We were just talking about how Sinclair has no organizational commitment whatsoever.
And this is why he leaves early to finish his own personal desires instead of doing the work for the sake of the company.
But I don't understand. We pay him a competitive salary. Why is he demotivated?
Well, unfortunately, all the money is motivating him to do right now is to do the absolute bare minimum he needs to just to get a salary. And in fact, money might even be a negative factor in this situation.
What do you mean by that?
Well, studies have shown that a strong exposure to money, so high wages, for example, can actually decrease people's feelings in terms of personal connections or organizational commitment. So that'll globally affect your
And you
organization.
think that's a factor that could decrease his motivation?
Definitely, yeah.
The argument he's making about money being a corrupting factor in this case makes sense, considering the suspicious behavior that Sinclair has had lately. But wow, I'm really impressed with Makoto's confidence and expertise, and I'm really optimistic that he can pull us through.
So Samson, you're the general manager here?
That would be me.
From what I've gathered, given the legitimate power that's inherent in your position, it's up to you to motivate Dave to do a better job.
And how would I go about that?
Well, it's all about intrinsic motivation, so you really have to inspire him. And frankly, the usual laissez-faire style of management that you've done so far just isn't going to cut it in this situation.
But what do you suggest I do differently then?
So what you can start with is trying to relate to Dave and ask about his situation. That way he'll be more involved and he'll have some kind of sense of obligation to change. Another thing you could do is bombard him with inspirational appeals about your CEO and what vision the company has, because having a vision for him is going to increase his motivation.
Intrinsic motivation, huh? That makes sense though.
Yeah, another way to increase motivation is what we call perceived public service efficacy. So that's just basically a measure of how much employees think their work is actually benefiting the public. So if you increase that, it's going to increase his organizational commitment, and as we said before, increasing his organizational commitment is going to increase his motivation.
But how can we do that?
A really quick way to do that is just to have more feedback from customers. So if you show Derek that the work he's doing is actually benefiting people's lives, it's going to motivate him a lot more to do a better job.
I see, and that would be my job.
Yeah, although it's your job, although Bowman, you could help with that too. One last thing you could actually try is to give Derek really clear goals. So if you give him goals, it'll keep him more energized. He'll probably be more creative with his strategies as well.
Well, that all sounds very good, but I can't help myself wondering what if his incompetence persists?
Well, I wouldn't call it incompetence per se. It's mostly that he's just not motivated. So you can kickstart that with like some extra rewards, whether it be a slight increase in salary or anything else that's extrinsic. But you know, if none of the other strategies work, as a last resort, you can exert your power as a manager. So you can threaten him with pay cuts or even expulsion.
Well, thank you so much. I already feel better about the future of this company.
Oh, it's my pleasure. You know, if you ever have any future problems, better call Chantal. So, Bowman has a degree of autonomy that endorses her willingness to reach a high level of reflection and productivity. She's intrinsically motivated, since her behavior is propelled by her interest in the activity itself, and she actually feels inspired to act for the organization. She takes a lot of pride in her work, and she wants to ensure that all the assets of the business are running smoothly. The danger, though, is that Bowman's motivation is starting to be based on pressure to act and respond to potential environmental consequences, mostly because of Sinclair's poor performance.
I'm sorry, I really have to go now, but thank you so much for your
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Thank you for coming.
I'll guess I'll head out to them.
Actually, could I speak to you for a bit? I wanted to talk to you about Bowman.
But is there a problem with her?
Well, not for now. See, the thing about Bowman is that she has a lot of intrinsic motivation, which is why she's such an effective employee. But if you let this situation with Derek persist, she's going to lose that intrinsic motivation, and you're going to have a much bigger problem on your hands.
Understood. I'll make sure to deal with the issue with Sinclair right away.
Alright.